yourself fine, yeah?
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation. It's Sunday and it is fight night. This is the home of the Danny Batten Fight Show and this is episode number 94. Tonight we'll be talking a huge weekend of MMA and boxing, and we're joined by one of the best young boxers in Wales, if not the UK and the world, ahead of his fight next week. And myself and Danny will also be looking at a sensational weekend of MMA, especially for some of our previous guests had a very successful time at Bellator, Wembley, Cage Warriors Trilogy, and of course the UFC as well. It's going to be a jam-packed show. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. A.C.E Podcast Nation, of course, you're home to many great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts, and more. Do follow us on social media. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Click the bell for notifications. But if you prefer your podcasts in audio form, every single podcast produced by A.C.E Podcast Nation now available on the Sports Social Podcast Network. And they are the UK's first dedicated all sports podcast network. You can find every single show and interview we do there. Even the non-sport ones will find their way there as well. But they got some great stuff there. And I urge you to have a look. Yeah, you check out their website, sport-social.co.uk. But as ever, I'm joined by my co-host. He's a former Cage Warriors world champion and, of course, a UK MMA legend. It is Mr. Danny Batten. Welcome, my friend. It has been a busy couple of days.
Yeah, we've really been spoiled, haven't we? Any MMA junkies out there, they have been overdosed. We had so much on, so much so, I mean, to try and get through it all, yeah, quite a task.
Yeah, it's been mental, mate, trying to fit it all in. But I've managed to watch most of it. I haven't watched all the UFC, but most of the big things. But we're joined by a Welsh boxer, currently unbeaten professionally with a record of 4-0. And ahead of his big fight next week, we're joined by Lloyd Germain. Welcome, Lloyd. How are you, mate? Oh, hang on. You're muted. 2 seconds. There we are. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. Are you okay?
Yeah, all good, mate. Really excited to have you. So obviously we were going to have you on last week, but you were up in London watching the AJ fight. So how was that, mate? Because he's taken a lot of criticism.
Yeah, it was great to be there. You know, it was obviously first big show post COVID, so it was nice to be a part of it, and definitely got me ready for my big fight now on Friday.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet that got you really excited. It's just the buzz of it and everything. We had Ben Doty on last week talking boxing, and we kind of really broke it down and talked about AJ's performance in detail. But I do feel like people are not giving Alexander Usyk enough credit. Like, the man's unbeaten; he's a world-class boxer, and like I had said to Danny beforehand on the shows, like, people just seem to think that AJ was going to walk through Usyk and Fury's going to walk through Wilder, but it doesn't always work like that. Like, you're talking about top level heavyweights. Like, in terms of this, what did you think of his performance overall?
To be honest, I was sat on the fence. I didn't really know who would win the fight. Obviously, you're talking about two Olympic gold medalists, two very, very good professional boxers, and I think from round one, when round one finished, I already knew Usyk would be too much for him. Going down, obviously in the later rounds, people thought maybe he'd slow down, but he didn't. And I don't know whether it was obviously Joshua not putting his size on him a little bit more and looking to throw more powerful shots. But from an outsider, when you're looking in the ring, you ask these questions: why didn't he do this, and why wasn't he? But I think Usyk just didn't allow him to do anything he wanted to do, and he was so unsettled with the man in front of him. When someone it's easy to look from the outside and say you should have done this, but I just don't think he was comfortable at all. Usyk was too much for him on the night, and like they always say, a good big guy will beat a good little guy. But to be honest, he was levels above Joshua in boxing, and I think he showed that throughout the 12 rounds. I don't think you could have given Joshua one clean cut round, and to say that when Joshua was obviously the home fighter and he was the world champion in the heavyweight division, Usyk come over and he did show his levels in that aspect,
Yeah, I think we said last week, Danny, or Ben said, didn't he, that like when it went to that decision, you did wonder. We've seen it in boxing sometimes where the home fighter will get the decision, and even though I think everyone felt like Usyk had won comfortably, there was like just a little, like a worry, not even a worry, but like just a thought: are they going to give it to Joshua? But look, I thought Usyk was excellent. One thing I will say, Danny, we've talked a lot about kind of like the respect the fighters give after the fights. And whatever you think of Anthony Joshua, and I know, for instance, Danny, you don't think he's the greatest boxer in the world, should we say? But the way he conducts himself and the way he's conducted himself after that fight, Dan, is unbelievable, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes it sound like like
you hate him,
critiquing him. I'm not at all. I mean, it's absolutely sound character, and I did mention about personalities and styles, and I was just saying, look, he's just a real nice guy, and sometimes I think he should have more mean intentions in there, and maybe needs to get into character of being a fighter. I'd be interested to know Lloyd's opinion on what I was thinking what could have changed up this fight for Joshua a little bit. He was the bigger man. You're saying about like lumping into bigger shots. I think maybe he should have been perhaps punching into a clinch a little bit more and get leaning on him. He had a little bit of height advantage, a natural size advantage, actually lean into the ropes with him and dirty it up a little bit. I feel like he tries to be clinical, and when you're clinical, some styles are going to have to warrant you to be quick, and to me, Joshua is not the quickest. He's clearly got some power there. He's clearly got some natural size over most people that he'll face, and I felt like he didn't know how to make his physicality, present itself in a way to become problematic for Usyk. But I don't know. Boxing is a very different game from the game that I specialise in, being at MMA. But I do think he could have and perhaps should have clinched up a little bit and pushed him around and bullied him with his size.
Yeah, most definitely. Like you look, he's a lot bigger than Usyk, and it seemed he was stuck between two styles. He wanted to step on the gas, but then he was it seemed like he was in range to land the big shots, and then he wasn't throwing the big shots. But again, I think he would have liked to, and if he looked back, he probably sees spots in the fight where he thinks, I could have done that then. But when it's happening in front of you, and when you're against such a tricky, slick boxer like Usyk, it becomes more difficult. And as the rounds go on, as you're missing and you're falling off your game plan, it's hard to just go back to that, to what you know. Do you know what I mean? And I think he was stuck between two different styles. Me personally, if he was going to win, I thought it'd either be by knockout. I could never have seen him outboxing Usyk just because of Usyk's boxing IQ is a lot better than Joshua's. Not saying Joshua's isn't good. Obviously, he's a world champion, but he's more known for being a bigger puncher, more destructive. But then again, like you said, he's very humble in defeat and he carries himself well. But then you look at the likes of Mike Tyson, like those guys are killers. You know what I mean? When they're in their heavyweight champion, they want like you said, they want to eat you. You know what I mean? And I don't think Joshua has that. Maybe he does, but he hasn't showed it these past few fights. Even you go to like Dylan White, he is a savage. You know what I mean? When he gets in there, there's no love at all. Even after the fight, I think if you beat him and you went and said well done to him, he'd probably still look at you as if to say, all right, well, just leave it there now. Do you know what I mean? But it is you got to have that bit of spite in you, and I don't think he did. I don't know if anyone else can agree, but the ring walk takes 10-15 minutes. You're in a massive stadium. You're soaking up the atmosphere. Like, I know myself, you just got to get in there and get the job done. Like, don't get me wrong, you've seen how Usyk come out. Usyk was just hood up, get to the ring. He knew what he had to do, and that was it. He wasn't playing on the crowd. He didn't let the crowd affect him, you know. And being in the stadium, funny enough, I left it just halfway through round 11. Reason being, because I knew there was going to be 60,000-70,000 people piling up the stadium. I could see what was going to happen from the previous 10 rounds. So I just thought, I'll leave. And you almost knew, unless Joshua knocked him out, there was definitely no way of him winning that fight. They even stopped at round 12, I think 10 seconds or something, a few seconds early as well, which shows... Obviously, he got beat by the better man, most definitely, on the night. And I think Usyk had his game plan. Joshua was unsure. And that's all he was. Boxing southpaws is tricky anyway, but when you're dealing with someone of Usyk's quality and you don't get your boxing off, then it is a long night. And I think he found that after round 2, 3, 4, 5. You know, I thought he was just off the pace as well, definitely.
It's interesting you mentioned the ring walks then, mate, because when Fury fought Wilder the second time, one of the things which Wilder's team came out and said afterwards was that his ring walk had actually really affected him. He had this big, long ring walk, didn't he? And he had, I think, I'm going off memory and my memory's shocking, but wasn't there something like his, he wore like some sort of, you know, like some sort
Darth
of
Vader suit type of thing.
Yeah, and it was really heavy. And by the time he got to the ring, he was, you know, it had fatigued him. Like, and I was just thinking, Jesus Christ. Like, if it was me, I just want to get in there. Do you know what I mean? I just want to have a quick, have your song, walk to the ring, let's go. But
of course, you soak up the fans anyway. You know, for me, it's just tunnel vision. When they call my name and you're making the road to the ring, it's just soak it up, get in there, and you know what's in front of you. I'm not playing before you walk into the ring. Do you know what I mean? You haven't got time for that. You look, some people spend longer walking to the ring. They get to the ring, get out cold in a couple of seconds. It shows you just got to get in there, get your head on what's in front of you. And I think the way Usyk come out, he silenced the fans in Wembley. Obviously, he was boxing away from home. There's 60,000 Joshua fans in there. There wasn't many people who wanted Usyk to win. He didn't let that get into his head. He put his hood up, got to the ring, and after... he turned it on his head, you know, like a football club. You know, when you're the away team and they're beating the home team. The home team silences. They then get the momentum and they then get the confidence from not hearing the fans. And I think that's what happened. And being in the stadium, every time Joshua landed or threw a shot, it was cheered, but there was no malice behind the shot. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it showed what he was getting credited off wasn't what he should have been, to be honest. Like, and I think Usyk just had the better game plan and he executed it from round 1 to 12. And I think if they were to have a rematch, I'd like to say he beat him again because it looked like he had more gears to go through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I thought he had more gears to go through. And interesting, you mentioned rematches. Like Craig in the chat there has said, what do you think of these rematch clauses? Surely they shouldn't be a part of it. When you lose, you should go to the back of the queue. So, Danny, I want to get your take on that first. Obviously, as predominantly an MMA coach and ex-fighter, like, how do you feel like in both sports, MMA and boxing, like once you get your shot, unless it's a draw or there's some sort of controversy or some reason to run it back, should that fighter who loses then go to the back of the queue?
Yeah. I don't like the type of thing that's happened with Fury and stuff, and it just doesn't sit well with me. You know,
what's that, like the automatic rematch?
Yeah,
like, regardless of the result.
It just doesn't make no sense. I mean, it might do contractually, financially for fighters and promoters and what have you. I kind of get that part of it, but for the fans' perspective, yeah, it's just not good, is it? It's already problematic enough for these top fighters, top boxers to face each other. They avoid each other. Something you spoke about numerous times on podcasts previous, that they avoid each other to such a degree that by the time they do face each other, it's when they're past their peak. There's problems enough. But the fact that these boxers who fight once or twice a year are fighting the same guy once, twice, 3 times, it's just not spreading out, and you're not seeing the matchups that perhaps we all really want to see. Yeah, I'm not comfortable. I don't like it. Of course, from time to time, you are going to get these rivalries, and they are going to face each other more than once. But more than once, one off the bounce, no, that don't seem right to me.
What about from your point of view, Lloyd, as a boxer, like these automatic rematch clauses where, we've seen it with Fury, we've seen it with Wilder, we're now seeing it with Joshua. We saw it with Joshua, with Ruiz as well. Talk to us a bit about, from a boxing point of view, why are they there?
Me personally,
go on.
I like to say I'm so mentally focused and confident that I'm not thinking of a rematch. I'm going straight through you, and that's all that's happening. That's me. If you're setting up these contracts for rematches, you're almost saying, okay, well, if he beats me, I'll get him back on the return fixture. Obviously, it is a tricky one, because from a promoter's and a managerial side, that's what they like to cover themselves. But unless it's a 50-50 fight and it goes to a draw, then, or it's just the other one nicks it just, you know what I mean? Then I understand the rematch. But would you really want to see, would 70,000 people go and pile in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium now in 8 weeks' time to watch Usyk and Joshua again? Me, I don't think I'd go and buy a ticket to that personally, because it wasn't
one-sided, wasn't it?
It wasn't even it was a clean-cut victory for the man. And obviously, it doesn't make sense when you're talking about the fighters at the very top having, a couple of fights a year, and then, like you said, you've got to watch fight the same guy they fought 3 months ago. It's not entertaining for the fans. I think that's the thing about the UFC. I've got to admit, the very best fight the very best, and it's just he'll fight him. If he beats him, then the next one steps up and fights him. That's who you will find who's the best. There's been, like Danny was saying, some great boxers who have almost gone over the hill and then been beaten by someone who at the time wasn't on his level, when the fans probably would have wanted the fight to happen 12 to 18 months ago, and then you don't really see the best of them. You don't really see the best. Like, what's this now? This is the third Wilder and Fury fight, is it?
Oh yeah, it's the third one, and like in this, the second one, like I get the first fight you had Fury got knocked down, didn't he? And everyone thought it was done, and then he obviously made that incredible comeback to win on points. And then the second fight, he beat Wilder convincingly, didn't he? It was about as one-sided fight as you could get. And then there was no need for this third match. Like, Fury's won twice. I get the second one because there was a little, I could see why they maybe felt like the ref gave Fury a bit of a long count, gave him a bit of time to get up, but he still got up and he, went on to win the fight on points. But that second one was, that was it.
There is rematches that's happened. Like me, I love watching Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward. Obviously, that trilogy, I think they're 3 of the best fights. You watch each of them. They are, you're on your edge of your seat even watching it right now. And if I've watched it 10 times, it's still one of those, like, it's exceptional fighting, and it just shows the grit and determination of a fighter. Those you don't mind is, again, Pacquiao, Marquez. There've been many rematches, and each one has lived up to his expectation. But when a fighter wins unanimously and the rematch clause is just something that they signed before they even touched gloves, I don't think it's right, personally. I think there's other fighters who should get the opportunity, and not every fan's going to want to see it again. I've spoke to a few of my mates in the gym. I don't think they'd want to see. They've even said that they wouldn't want to see that. They'd rather see Usyk fight someone else, or Joshua come and fight this guy and earn a shot at Usyk. I'd like to see Joshua fight Dylan White again, me personally, because I think the way things have gone in career-wise, the past few fights Dylan White has had, he's stepped right up, and I think, like I said, he is a savage. For me, it's two different type of fighters, isn't there? You've got Joshua who's more of a big boxer, and Dylan White just wants to get stuck in and really hurt you. I think he'd fancy his chances with Joshua the way he is at the moment, as well. And there's someone like Dylan White who deserves a shot. He had that silver WBC silver for months. I think it was like the longest someone ever was a mandatory for the title shot, and then he lost to Povetkin, come back beat Povetkin, and it's a catch-22, isn't it? If you do like this, if it's an excellent fight, then yeah, let's have it again. But when someone wins convincingly, I don't think it's much point in watching her again,
No, I think I got it wrong. I think I got it wrong as well. I said that Fury won that first point. He didn't. It was a draw, wasn't it? But but it was like Fury should have won. I think it was the overall feeling, but it was a draw, and then obviously Fury won the second fight. We could talk about this for ages and ages and ages. I wouldn't mind seeing Usyk fight the winner of Wilder and Fury. To be honest, I think at the end of the day, like we were all looking forward to Joshua versus Fury before they made Wilder, the mandate that they installed in this court of arbitration when it said he's got to fight Wilder Fury again. So I do think Usyk versus the winner of that probably makes the most sense. Maybe you could have Joshua versus the loser, or Joshua versus Dylan White makes sense. But I think it'd be our job selling Fury versus Joshua at the moment, just because Joshua looked invincible. And then he lost to Ruiz, and I still think he hasn't quite had the same air around him as he did prior to that defeat. So, even though he in the second fight he was excellent, he was impressive. I just think he's lost something. Maybe it's a bit of confidence that he felt and invincible, and now he doesn't. I don't know, but
how hungry is he? Like, do you know what I mean? I remember one of the greats said it's a lot harder to get up and run at 5 o'clock in the morning when you're sleeping on silk sheets. You know what I mean? When you've got nothing, that's like me. I'm starving. You know what I mean? I'm hungry. I want. This is all I want, and it'll always be until I finish. But there has looked times in his career where he's looked a bit comfortable. Does that make sense? He doesn't seem to. Obviously, he doesn't have to lift. He doesn't have to fight again financially, does he? But then, do you do it for the money? Yes, because money makes everything a lot easier in life. But then you got to have that passion and the hunger to want to just be the baddest man on the planet, being the heavyweight champion. I think there was times when, like Mike Tyson had it, he just wanted to be the number one. Do you know what I mean? And when you're at the top, it's you get criticised for everything. Like I said, he's a great boxer, Joshua, and I don't disgrade him for anything he's done. He's great. He's done massive things for British boxing. He's probably taken it to the top and to the highest point he's ever been. But you have to ask yourself, how hungry is he now? And he just didn't look like he had that spike on Saturday night to just go in there and genuinely.
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, I don't think it's a case that he's had his confidence now. I do feel the same as you, Lloyd, that it's more of a case that maybe he's been there and done it. And it seems like he's boxing for boxing's sake rather than boxing to chase a dream. He's like, I don't know. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Almost, maybe, possibly so. Yeah. But he's maybe just been there and done it.
We've talked about McGregor. Like, Conor McGregor has got so much money that, like, his only motivation to fight now, it's not to make more money, because he's got more money than his kids will ever be able to spend. So it's got to be about being the best and love of the game. But he's lost something from a fighting point of view at the moment, where he's not as, when he was hungry and he was coming up through that UFC and through Cage Warriors, no one was getting in his way. It was just, he was destroying, top level fighters. He was destroying legends in seconds. He's at the moment, because I wouldn't write him off, but at the moment he's not able to get to that same level, possibly because the opponents have improved and they're younger and he's older. But also I think the fact that he's got so much money, like you said, Lloyd, if you've got silk sheets and you've got millions and millions and millions in the bank and you're earning
It's a
more
lot
just
harder
by
to get
staying
out
at home.
of bed, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you want to get out of bed at 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock, go for a run in the
I
rain?
think Daniel agree with me. It's not, although it is a lot of glitz and glamour boxing and MMA, but the reality of it is there's someone across the ring trying to physically hurt you, you know. And at the moment, I'm doing it. I'm just building my career up, you know what I mean? And even when I reach the top, I'd like to say I'm going to be as hungry as I am right this second, because it's just something that is a challenge to myself. Do you know what I mean? I challenge myself, not just my opponent. It's me. It's you against you in there, really, you know. And it's all in the preparation. It's how you're preparing for these fights. Do I do it for myself? Do I do it for a lot of other reasons? But when you're at the top of the game and you've achieved everything, yeah, it is harder. And same way, like you just said about McGregor, he was beating everyone convincingly. He was Cage Warriors. He was beating it. He was too much for everyone. But then he had an exhibition with Floyd Mayweather and earned stupid money, you know. And it shows in the UFC, there's hungrier lions than him now. So does he want to jump back in there and fight these guys? Does he need to? No. So do you have to? No, not really. You don't even have to. Do you know what I mean? But when you're coming up, you've got to fight whoever's in front of you. Me now on Friday, that's my world title fight. Every fight for me is a world title fight. This all part of the journey. You don't overlook anybody. Do you know what I mean? I train now like I would be training when I'm training for a world title shot. That's just me personally. And if you haven't got that hunger in you, you will lose these fights. And maybe if Joshua isn't as hungry as he was a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, then that could be the reason why we're seeing him, I wouldn't say underperform, but not perform with the same spite. Like the way he beat Klitschko, he was put down, got up, and finished the fight convincingly. I think if Usyk put him down, he wasn't getting up and beating him. You know what I mean? That's me personally.
Yeah, I agree. I gotta say, I agree with that. I think that's a good way to kind of move on from that. Like, I completely agree. But I want to talk, Lloyd, a bit about you and about your career and how, where did it all begin for Lloyd Germain? Like, tell us a bit about like your upbringing and then your first sort of first foot into boxing and combat sports and that sort of thing.
Obviously, I'm from Cardiff. I'm a proud Welshman. Yes, obviously. I did a bit of taekwondo when I was younger, so I was always into combat sports. Played every sport under the book, to be honest. I don't think my mum was too happy. I'd open the cupboard and they would just be, you'd have tennis rackets falling out, rugby boots, football boots, every sport I'd done it. Every sport I'd done it. But boxing was something I think first stepped into a boxing gym when I was about 12. And I remember watching, I think it was Shane Mosley. I couldn't remember who it was, but I was watching one of the shows. I used to watch Friday Fight Night always religiously as well on Sky Sports. And like I said, I was 12. Didn't really know what I wanted, to be honest. But I remember first stepping into the gym and smelling that sweat and the aura of the boxing gym, you know. And it was something that I'd never, ever forget. Obviously, fast forward now. I was in and out of boxing gyms. I never really could get fights. And then, unfortunately, I had a family tragedy. My brother passed away in 2018. And for me, it was almost like my calling. Do you know what I mean? And I do believe everyone's put in here for a reason. I believe this is what I was meant to do. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But he passed away. And I thought, listen, you've got one life here now. This can make me or break me. And it just put me back to what I should be doing. And since then, I've not looked back. You know, I've lived and breathed boxing. I've done everything by the book. I turned professional then in 2019. In 14 months, I had 4 fights. I was due to fight I had 2 other fights scheduled in, and then COVID happened. So from my perspective, it was just me falling back into what I was meant to do. Obviously, like, I live and breathe boxing. I do this for myself, for my family, to change their life. And it's something that's very, very close to me. I think going forward now, I'm just glad to have a fight date and be back in there. I'm looking forward to pick up from where we left off now on Friday and win again, and then just continue to step up the ladder. But it is something very close to my heart, boxing. It's, I always watch some interviews and people say, what would you be doing if you were on boxing? And for me personally, I don't think I could tell you right now what I'd be doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It has almost saved me in the aspect of it's bettered me each day. It gives me direction. It makes me want to be the best version of me every single day. And at the moment, the future's looking very bright, and I put everything into this, and in years to come, it'll show,
Like everyone I've spoken to speaks really highly of you as a person and your attitudes towards like training, boxing, everything. Like, but not just that, like the talent you got as well. Like,
thank you. It means a lot, honestly.
It's one of those things, isn't it? Like, I think once you get the bug, you've kind of got it, haven't you? And especially if you get that bug for a sport, whether it's combat sports or it's football or whatever, if you get that bug at like 12, 13 and you're good or exceptional at it, it kind of takes over your life in terms of
definitely.
Because if you want to reach the top, you even at that young age of 12, 13, you've got to make a choice to be training when your mates are out doing whatever, going out, meeting up, girls, wherever it may be. Like, they're going to be doing that each night after school and whatever, and you've got to make a decision to train and to do X, Y, and Z. And I think most guys who make the top level in sports, they say the same. They say that they had to make that sacrifice. What about in terms of like the early days of your career when you were younger? Was there anyone in particular who kind of influenced you in terms of helping you, keep your focus and stuff? Maybe when you were a teenager and you wanted to go and do other stuff.
Not really, to be honest. I'm my own big. Like, I know it sounds mad. I'm my own biggest fan. I don't call on anyone to influence me. I like to say, I just want to do it I just want to better myself. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say I rely on anyone to influence me at all, to be honest. I don't ask no one to wake me up in the morning and go for a run in the rain. I don't ask no one to pack my bags for me, if that makes sense. I've got a great group of people around me who help me. I've got a very supportive family, girlfriend, and it's all part of the team. My trainers, they all support me in other ways, but I motivate myself. It's me. I want this more than anyone for myself, and I think with that attitude, you can't go wrong. If you've got someone who influences you, that's good. But then what happens when they stop influencing you? Do you stop doing what you're meant to do because you haven't got someone to tell you to do it? That's me. Like I said, I went to watch AJ on the weekend, 70,000 people. There was a mad buzz around it. Obviously, I'm 2 weeks out from my fight. I don't drink or anything. It doesn't come into my mind to do that. I went up there with my girlfriend. She obviously enjoyed herself. I did as well. But it's not like I've gone there and I take my mind off my goals. That just was a big part of me going there was for me to soak it all up and say, this is what happens when you stay strict to what you're meant to be doing. When you make these sacrifices, and to get to the top, I believe you have to do that. It's obviously luck comes into it, yes, because you can get it by, but it's all work to your hard work and how dedicated and focused you have the job in hand. Like, I've not seen my good mates for a good while. I've not seen family members due to me just being so focused and zoned in on my path. As you know, probably, Danny, being a combat fighter, it is selfish. I go out, I can't eat certain things, I can't go there, I can't enjoy certain things. But then when it's all said and done and I'm lying in my silk sheets in years to come, I'd like to say it was worth it then, and we'll have a toast to it. But yeah, you definitely have to be strict with what you do. I'm not asking for obviously it's not a massive career. You're not talking 20, 30 years, like 20 years Pacquiao, but then you're talking, I've got a good 5 to 10 years from now to make the very, very most out of my boxing career for me, my family, and for my people around me, and I think with that attitude, I can't go wrong,
Absolutely. So 8th of October, you're fighting Martin Fichtner at that's a your call as well, isn't it?
No, I'm actually fighting in Cardiff. I'm fighting in Cardiff.
That's right. Just seeing then. That's all right. No home fight, mate. Front of your people. What about like how's COVID affected you as training? Was it difficult to like? Obviously, gyms and things like that were closed for a period. Like, did you find that difficult, or was it just a case of right? Well, I've got to deal. I've got to train, but I've got to do it my own way. I got to just adjust.
To be honest, I was fortunate. Obviously, as an elite athlete, I was allowed to train. I trained. In honesty, I think I trained flat out for. Boy, it's going to be by Friday when I step into the ring. It'll be 16 months since I last fought. But
yeah,
I've put hours and hours and hours into the graft before that, and yeah, it did affect me in one aspect because I couldn't see no light at the end of the tunnel. I was training, I seen other people getting their shots. I stayed in the gym. I stayed dedicated to my craft and was just learning and learning. But then it come to a point where it was like, right, I'm not going to fight now for at least 2 or 3 months. So I took a little couple of weeks off, just to enjoy my family and enjoy life a bit, if that makes sense, and just to. I am very, very what's the word? I'm very focused, and once I've got that focus in my head, it's hard for me to take my eye off the ball. So it was good for me too, because I believe too much of the same thing. You can fall out of love with something. Then I took myself away from boxing for a couple of weeks, just enjoyed family time, and come back. Then I went out to Lanzarote, done a training camp in Lanzarote. I felt fresh. I felt like I needed the little rest, Then back in the gym in Newport, and was fortunate to get a fight date. And since then, it's just been all systems go. I've been jumping on trains. I've been jumping on trains to go and spar Liam Smith in Liverpool on my own. Coming back, I've been getting up in the morning, running. Like, I live and breathe this, And at the start, yeah, it did affect me. But then I had to. It wasn't just me in the situation. You know what I mean? I wasn't injured where I couldn't fight. Every boxer, or everyone in the world was going through the same thing, Going to Tesco's, there's no toilet rolls, there's no food, There was a lot more going on than just boxing at the time. But I'm grateful to say I've got a fight date now, and I'm more focused now than ever, and I'm ready to make up for the lost time I had due to COVID, which was out of my hands anyway. So there's no point me sitting on the fence and moaning. It was nothing I could do about it. All that matters is now is that we're fully ready and prepared to go in there on Friday and win. And I'm not going to be looking back, and it's in years to come when I look back, it's just part of the journey,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I think you probably know yourself, or probably heard there's probably lots of combat fighters who have stepped away from the fight game because of not knowing. But I always knew it was going to be a time where I'd be back in the ring, so it was never a chance of me packing it up and finishing. It's just go through the storm and it'll come out.
I think sometimes you do need like a bit of time to recharge your batteries. And
yeah, definitely.
If you're doing the same thing like every day, all the time, you can fall out of love with it, like you said. But you need just to step away and have that time just to recharge and lay your brain and your mind just clear. And like I said to you just before we started, I feel like at the moment I'm just like constantly sat at my computer, podcasts or something, or interviews and something.
Yeah.
And like once I sit down, I get distracted. And I know it's not the same as fighting, but like I'll sit down and I'll start editing a video clip or something. And then before I know it, it's like 4 hours later or whatever. And I've been at it all that time. And you've got to pull yourself away from it and just clear your mind a bit. And I think it's vital to do that no matter what you're doing. But what I was going to ask you, Lloyd, is actually I was going to put it to Danny, really. Like we spoke to Dan, we spoke to Cody Davis a couple of weeks ago. We spoke to Gav Gwynn. Like for fighters, part of the reason I think COVID was difficult is one, you're not getting paid during that time without fighting. But also for fighters who are not, they're on their journey to the top, if you like, they're not the ones who are getting the fights when the fights came back on. It's the ones who are kind of already either
established.
There. Yeah. And I think it was such a difficult time for all those fighters in MMA and boxing, where you had all these fighters, they're trying to stay fit, they're training, they're doing this, they're doing that, but they're not getting no money coming in. And then it becomes difficult because when the shows are coming on, so in boxing, you had like Eddie Hearn or whatever's doing those shows from his house, and you've got MMA, Cage Warriors was the only shows on. Like, if you couldn't get on those cards, you couldn't fight. And it's only now that, you know, the amateur stuff is opening up. But like, Danny, obviously you train a lot of fighters. Like, how difficult is it for fighters in that period when they're just waiting? Like, all your amateurs have just been waiting to fight, and they're obviously on their journey towards maybe turning pro at some point in the next couple of years, but they just couldn't get fights. There was no amateur shows. Like, what's that like from a mentality point of view for those fighters?
Yeah, it's all different for different people. I think a lot of it is your perspective on that situation that you're going through. For me, I try to install the mindset for them that the longer you have out, just, you know, become better for the next time you do step in. You know, for me, if I had a 6-month, gap between my fights, I would have 6 months of increment of improvements, technically, strategically, and so on and so forth. If it's a year, I'm just going to be an even more devastating version of what I was previous. I try not to look at that time out, no matter what situation is causing that time out. I try to look at that time out as a time to grow. You know, if you fight so many times in 1 year, and you had in the opposite end where you had an abundance of opportunities to fight and you fight loads, you know, that's all very well, and it gets you really sharp and what have you. But to a point, there's no growth of improvement either. You know, you can't just be in fight camp all the time. You know, Jordan Fusenic's a good example. In that first lockdown, where the government didn't know what kind of guidelines to give anyone, they just shut all their gyms down, and you know, no one could do anything. There was no structured thing for elite athletes on that first lockdown. It was all up in the air. No one knew where they stood, particularly with the MMA community. You know, Jordan was out running one day, cycling another day. He was doing something every day. So he wasn't in the gym training and drilling in a way to improve ourselves technically, but what he did do was stay in shape, so that when he did come back, he was the first to take any opportunity that come up regards getting a fight. It's the survival of the fittest at the end of the day. You know, you got to be in it to win it, and you know, using that lockdown as a time to sit and get fat, do nothing, sulk, get depressed.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to detract from your focus, and all it's going to do is it's just going to filter the ones that are really going to make it to the ones that are not. It really does start to show personality types, and I very much get the impression of Lloyd Germain. Yeah, and especially as you look at it from a step back perspective, you know, your career is a small window, and so. Yeah. You know, of course, you've got scope to work after your career if you wish to, but you know, hopefully, you're going to get in a position where you don't have to. You know, I know that that's your desire to, you know, sleep in silk sheets, so to speak. But you know that window is prime, and it's one, and you're so focused. And it's when I hear other fighters that, I don't know, they're almost wanting excuses not to train, and that COVID was a great opportunity for those ones that don't have the mindset, such as you have, Lloyd. You saw it. I saw it with numerous fighters. They stepped out. They were having drink. They were, smoking this and that and whatever. They really broke out from. And when they come back, it was an utter shock to come back training. And I had to give numerous people some pep talks and try to use different examples of fighters that are exemplary in their training and their mindset. But yeah, look. MMA is becoming really, really evolved. You know, you can't be a part-time, practitioner of the arts and expect to succeed at pro anymore. You know, back in my time, you might have got away with doing that, but boxing's been long established. And I know that if anything other than the type of mindset that you're showing, you ain't making it. You ain't making it big.
Oh, of course.
Simple as that.
And you can be the fittest. You can be the fittest in the gym. You can be the strongest. It's, you know yourself, it's the top 2 inches that count the most, you know, when it's all said and done. If, like, I like to say, physically, I'm in the best shape I've ever been. Mentally, I'm in the best shape I've ever been also. But I did go through those times in COVID where I could always see the goal. But with COVID, what was happening, it was just windows getting put up in front of you and then getting frosty. But you just had to smash them out the way, and then the goal is always the exact same, if that makes it. Obviously, if you're catching my drift, the goal is always exactly the same. I've never changed. It's never been different to me. I'm too focused for it to change. But it was just, like you said, the strongest will survive. But then, again, in the short career space you have as a combat fighter, you have to be ready for those phone calls. Opportunities get thrown at people who are ready, you know, and who stay in the gym, like Errol Spence, injured. What's his name? Who just beat Pacquiao? What's his name?
Oh, terrible names, mate.
Ngannou or whatever. He just
Yes,
beat
yeah.
Pacquiao. He was only called because Errol Spence was injured and couldn't fight. He was prepared. He was fit. He come and won. You know what I mean? It changed
his life, didn't it?
He just beat Manny Pacquiao, one of the Hall of Famers. You know, there would have been many people on that list who probably were phoned, who probably wasn't quite ready, who probably, oh well, we won't bring him. It might be a decent fight, but is he fit enough? Is he? When you are ready and you're prepared, it says a lot about you as a fighter, you know, and a lot about you as a person. There's no good me having this mindset, but then taking months off and then coming back and then doing this, and then until my career's done and I've achieved what I've set out to achieve, I will always have this mindset, you know, and I think that is the best way to be in this game. It's not a long career. You got to grab the bull by its horns and just give it your, literally live, eat, sleep and breathe it. That's which I do, you know, and I believe with that attitude and mentality, then that's what you have to achieve to be at the very top, you know.
You've got to have that. It's an elite mentality, Dan, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, one boxer, you know, he was a great boxer. I really enjoyed watching him, but to me, he just lacked that legendary status because of the way that when he wasn't preparing for a fight, he was out partying. I think that's Ricky Hatton.
Ricky Hatton.
I mean,
the same thing.
He's a classic example. He would get massive. I mean, his body was just shocking. But you know, of course, he dragged himself back into shape, but clearly he was not growing his boxing skills with each fight that was progressing as he went up the levels, or he got found out in the end. But yeah, I mean, that's a classic example of different personality types.
Yeah, you look at Hatton. He only lost to Mayweather and Pacquiao.
Yeah,
two of probably the very best welterweights and super welterweights. They're in the top 10 ever in that division. You know what I mean? People will have their other people who will say are better or this, but on paper, those two are you could say Mayweather is one of the greatest ever to lace up the gloves. People will say that. Pacquiao again, for obviously people have got their own people who they like, but the way he went and ballooned through camps, it showed. Yeah, he'd come back and he'd always be ready to win, which hats off to him. But then maybe if he didn't take that time, he probably took 4 weeks out of a camp just to lose weight. That could have been 4 weeks where he's learning other things. And I think Ricky Hatton, he was one watching him growing up. He was one of my favorite. You know, he used to bring excitement, Blue Moon pumping on the way to the ring. You know, it was mad when I watched Campbell Hatton fight. Unfortunately, he's got a lot to live up to, you know, and it's always going to be hard when your dad's Ricky Hatton, isn't it? But yeah, his preparation wasn't the best, I think. Well, I think we can both all agree on that, you know. And
yeah.
I think he used to be called Ricky Fatten, didn't he? Because he beat 10 stone 7, and then out of camp he probably weighed 12, 13 stone, which is not good for your body, you know.
No.
That's nuts.
It was funny that this has kind of come up because previous guest, friend of the show, Paddy the Baddie, who's obviously made his UFC debut recently.
Paddy the Baddie.
He's had a bit of criticism on social media the last week or so because he's put on weight since his fight. But to be fair to him, he's put on a little bit of weight. He's a bit chubbier than he was, but like obviously he dropped to lightweight. He's in the lightweight division. He cuts for his fight, and then after his fight, he has some food and drinks and whatever, which he hasn't done for that. But he's also the first in the gym every day, training like a madman. And that's what he said. He said, I might have put on a little bit of weight after my fight, but I'm still the first in the gym. I'm still working the hardest. I'm still, you know, training the kids and doing all this and that. And like, there's a difference to that, I think, to, you know, all the foods you've denied yourself in camp and to weight cut for your fight, having some of that stuff after your fight, I think that's all right because he's still, you know, he's still training. But like, I think what happened, the difference between him and Hatton used to just go mental, didn't he? He used to like, you'd see him in the papers like pissed up and just
doing stuff which he shouldn't have. But then you're only human, you know. And
of course,
I'd love to say in years to come I achieve what that man has achieved. You know, his
Absolutely,
beautiful house, he's a top lad. I'd love to meet him as well, because just I can imagine sitting on a dinner table with you, he'd give you nothing but jokes. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, 100%.
it's like me. I'm boxing now. On Friday is my first fight at welterweight. I used to box at super welterweight, which is not a lot of weight anyway, but I'd only walk around just above the super welterweight limit. So for me to make welterweight, it's not a lot. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I'm athletic anyway, but I'm not talking cutting stones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're talking cutting the week of the fight, cutting a few pounds, which shows on the day of the weigh-in, on the day of the fight, same day weigh-in welterweight, super welterweight was just normal, because it was almost what I walked around at. Now, weighing in at welterweight day before, it's just, you've trained harder for it. And Dan, you'll know you win the fight before you step into the ring or the octagon, you know, and it's depriving yourself of these little things. But I'd like to see if we had an interview in 3 weeks' time of me in my victory pizza, you know. I wouldn't be 13, 14 stone. I wouldn't be 13, 14 stone, you know. And each to their own. But I like to stay ready, you know. And like I said, I'd enjoy as much of the stuff I'm not enjoying now when I've achieved everything I've set out. And then the cake always tastes sweeter then, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And like for me, like I don't know if you two will agree, but like for me, like if you're on your way up there, to me, I would always want to be ready. Even when I've had my fight, I wouldn't go too mental, just because you never know when that phone call might come and someone will say, oh, well, someone's dropped out of a fight. Look, Chris Eubank Jr. has been advertised on Sky all week to be fighting someone. That fighter got COVID. Then, so he found, that was Friday night. The fighter was announced he was out. Then the replacement fighter was announced. And then Saturday morning, he was out. So, like, to me, I would want to stay ready in case you ever get that phone
Opportunities will come in this game. And
you don't want to turn it down because you've...
Steve Robinson, Steve Robinson's a Cardiff lad. I think he got called on 24 or 48 hours. Someone just commented the same thing. I was just about to say Steve Robinson. See, Craig Sullivan, great minds think alike. But yeah, Steve Robinson was called on short notice, turned up and won a world title. If he wasn't ready, would you say he's a world champion? Could he say would become a world champion? No, he was ready for the opportunity like I'm knocking. He then won a world title, defended it, and boxed Prince Naz, you know, and earned good money. And besides the money, he become a world champion, you know, and there's no money for me. There's no money that could buy that for me, you know, after all the hours put in. And you do it for the money, but just the accolades of saying I am a world champion, you know. And Danny obviously has said it, but you can earn money but that's what you do it for. There's no price on that for me, you know. And it becomes with opportunities that'll come knocking, but you make sure you're ready for them opportunities. I've already got another fight lined up after this one. Obviously, I don't overlook this one, but my manager's already said there's a possible fight date here and here, you know. And for me, it's deal with October the 8th, and then the next one is then, you know, on to the next one.
You'd be gutted though, wouldn't you? Like as a fighter, if you got that phone call to say, oh, so-and-so's dropped out, do you want this title fight? And you were like, I'm like 3 stone overweight. I'm never going to be able to cut the weight in that time because you've gone mad. I don't mean you, Lloyd, necessarily you, just generally as a fighter. Like, you'd be gutted, wouldn't you, if you missed that opportunity because you'd just gone mad in the time after your fight, and then you missed that. It goes to someone else, and they're now the champion, and you've lost the opportunity. Like, I don't know. It's hard. Like, everyone's human, and but
like, I'd want to say, if that opportunity comes my way, I'm taking the fight not for the payday. Do you know what I mean? I'm not just taking it because I'm a couple of pounds overweight and I can lose that, or a couple of whatever, or lose that and get a fat purse off. I'm going there to win as well. You know what I mean? That's you know yourself. If you got to lose 3 stone in the space of a week, you haven't been in the gym. Yeah, you might be on weight on the scales, but are you there? Are you the best version of yourself on fight night? Probably not, because you're not prepared for it, are you? You know.
No.
like I say, every fight that I take, I'm going there to win, and that's the best attitude you have, you know.
So, Donna Lloyd, she says, when you win on the 8th of October, what's next for Lloyd Germain? What are your ambitions?
Obviously, October 8th, go in there and get another win. My ambitions are to become a world champion. You know, I strong believe in you gotta. If you're in this sport and you do not want to become a world champion, then what do you do it for? You know, obviously I chase and I want to shoot to the very, very top. I want my name to be known, and the focus and the dedication and the time I put into that's what I expect from myself. You know, and without big dreams, you're never going to achieve that. So yeah, definitely my biggest ambition is to become a world champion and continue to build on my record, which I have right now, until I get to that point in my career, you know. But definitely, first things first is Friday, 8th of October, is another win for myself, you know, and I can't wait for that.
I like it, mate. I like it. Just before we kind of finish up, mate, I wanted to play something what we call it's the one word game, but it's not one word. Basically, I give you a list of different names from combat sports, and you just tell me the first thing which kind of springs to mind when you hear that name. If you're up for it. So
yeah, definitely.
Okay, Lloyd Germain, the one word game. So the first name on the list is the notorious Conor McGregor.
That's Conor McGregor. Yeah. Flamboyant.
I like that. That's a good one. We haven't had that one.
It's a different one. That's different.
Yes,
that's new.
Indeed, yeah. The next name on the list is Steve Robinson, Cardiff's own.
Preparation, you know. Prepared.
Okay. Next one, Eddie Hearn.
Show me the money.
Jake and Logan Paul.
Oh. Gossers.
Tyson Fury.
He's quality, the champion, the people's champ. You know, I like him. I like Tyson Fury.
Jack Tank Shaw.
Artillery combat, man. Yes, Jack. Great fighter.
Canelo Alvarez.
Mexican meat.
And then the last couple, Joe Calzaghe.
Special. I mean, he is special, you know. I'd like to say as well, personally, if he was English, they'd say he was the best thing since sliced bread, you know. I don't think he gets quite the accolade he deserves.
Yeah.
Not many fighters go unbeaten, do they? Let's be honest, and achieve what he achieved.
And look at the fighters he beat, you know.
Oh, yeah. Big names. And the final name on my list is Tony Borg.
My mentor. You know, I've got a massive love and respect for Tony. That guy is he's taught me a lot, and under his guidance, the future will be very bright for myself, you know.
I like it, mate. I really like it. I like it a lot. Good stuff, mate. So, excuse me, sorry. Myself and Danny now are going to talk Cage Warriors, Bellator, UFC, and all. There's so much to talk. There's too much MMA over the last couple of days. Lloyd, you're welcome to stay and join us, mate, and have just a chat about MMA. Or if you want to shoot, you can shoot. I'll leave that entirely up to you, my friend.
I didn't, to be unfortunate, I didn't watch any of the MMA this weekend. I've been a bit selfish again. It's just at the moment it's just been the Lloyd Germain show, you know. So I'm just focused on myself and what I've got to deal with in front of me. But yeah, I'm gonna love and leave you guys, and it's been a pleasure to have me on. And massive shout out to everyone who's tuned in, and keep your eyes peeled. Follow my journey, you know.
Absolutely, mate. I'll check up your social media and stuff in the posts and that as well. And if people want to watch it, they can watch. I think you said it's going to be on Facebook.
They might even be on YouTube Live. But we should have some big news for you all soon as well. But like I said, massive thank you for having me on. Great to speak to you, Danny and Sai. And
yeah, good meeting you, Lloyd.
Appreciate it, mate.
Great to meet you. I have to keep in contact for sure. And
yeah, mate. come
We'll
back
get
on
another
after
one
your
down
fight.
in a couple of weeks of the victory celebration.
Yeah.
You can
Definitely.
see how
You know
much
it.
pound I put on, yeah?
Yeah, excellent, mate. That's it. Get in. Best of luck, mate. I'll be
Thank you very
definitely
much.
watching your fight. Take it easy, bro.
Cheers,
Thank
buddy.
you very much. All
Cheers,
the
mate.
best. Thank you.
Here we go, Lloyd Germain, another top guest from the world of combat sports. This I really enjoyed that, mate. I gotta be honest, he's very easy to talk to. Someone said, I can't find it. I'm trying to find the comment. Someone made a comment about the three of us.
Good chemistry.
Yeah, Lloyd speaks really well. Great chemistry between the three of you. I'll take that, mate. Take that every time.
Yeah.
But no, that was good. Look, bang on an hour because I am a professional. I know my timings, mate. Know my timings.
Didn't we hit over 2 hours last week overall?
Yeah, well, I was intentional. Obviously, it's always intentional.
Okay, yeah.
But it's nothing to do with the fact that we got a ridiculous amount to talk about. So we're gonna have to we're gonna round it up as best we can. We can't go fight by fight. We'll be here all bloody night. But a few notable performances, I think, which deserve. And like obviously, there's some fights that you've seen and haven't, and some which I've seen and haven't. So we'll try and go through them as best we can. So we had Cage Warriors 127 first and foremost on Thursday. To me, and maybe I'm a bit biased because he's a friend of mine, but like the standout performance for me was Oban Elliott returning to welterweight, decimated George McManus after about 2 minutes 47. And look, George McManus, mate, is he was unbeaten. He's got a fighting pedigree from his family and stuff. He's he's not he was no mug. And Oban really looked like the Oban of old, not the Oban who faced Figlak before he had all his his problems with his heart and stuff. But did you catch the full fight?
No, I've not caught up regards watching or studying any of the Cage Warriors because I was at fight events both on the Friday and on the Saturday. So I was pretty stacked up with everything. But I did see little clippets. People were playing it on their phone. And I saw different clippets and people come up saying, oh, this just happened. And so I was up to date in some form or fashion.
The thing which impressed me, mate, with Oban's performance was he did get clipped at one point and he just shook it off. And when he did finally, he sort of caught George McManus with like a left. I think it was a left hook from memory. And as soon as he wobbled him, that was it.
He went for the kill. That's a clip that I've seen.
Killer instinct, like to finish that fight. And we've talked about it recently with fighters who haven't followed up when they've given someone a wobble. I think it might have even been one which springs to mind, Tyrone Woodley, when he wobbled Jake Paul. He did not follow it up, but there was none of that. Oban was straight in, he finished it. And George McManus, he's also got a very bright future. I just think he come up against Oban, who was very, very determined. His mentality for this fight, when we spoke to him, you could tell.
Absolutely.
Very laser focused on making sure that people saw the real him, I guess.
He wants to get back on track and reprove himself, and he certainly did that with that performance from what I'm hearing about. And I did see the finish, but I just didn't see the whole fight. But he tasted blood, and he really gunned for it in the right way as well. Because so often you see people get rocked and then they shoot in on them. Doesn't make sense. They smother their own work, which we've seen time and time again. And on the other extreme, Woodley, rocking someone and then not doing anything, not following up at all. What I liked about what Oban's finish was that he followed up with the right type of intensity. He's picking the shots, and impressive performance from him. I'm glad he's back on winning ways. I'm sure we're going to see more of that from him.
100%, mate. And like the other thing from this card, Rory Evans faced Wesley Meyer. Wesley Meyer, I think, is a very, very good fighter. And Rory Evans was injured early on, and he just kept coming, just kept going and going and going and going. And he won it via decision, 29-28 across the board. What a fight, mate. I would recommend going back and watching that one, I got to say. Just for the, it reminded me of like a film, like in the final fight where the hero gets injured, but he just keeps going. That's what it reminded me of. I just was really
Right.
impressed with Rory Evans' ability to win that fight injured. And he had a cut, which he kind of protected his, he fought in a way that when they were in the clinch, that it was away from the referee, and very good. Josh Reed, Crazy Horse, obviously previous guest. Another rear naked choke win in the first round versus Kazriev. It was a bit of a banger by all accounts. But Josh Reed, very impressive. In my opinion, should be next in line for a title shot. I really believe that it's his turn now. Like he is, I think he's on a three fight win.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's likely to happen. It makes sense, doesn't it?
I just think it's his goal, whatever you want to say. He's earned that shot. And that's it. And then the main event was Dominic Wooden defeated Nathan Fletcher. Nathan Fletcher, obviously from Next Gen Gym, with Paddy the Baddie and them. And I think
it was good scalp.
Yeah, before the fight, I think most people thought Nathan and Fletcher was going to pick up the win here. I think he was he was almost like the people's pick, as you saw people talking about it and stuff. But Dominic Wooden, wow, really impressive stuff, mate. I got to say, particularly the finish was electric. The way he finished off the fight. And I was really impressed with Dominic Wooden's performance against probably, let's be honest, probably as an underdog. These Cage Warriors shows are just unbelievable. I got really sent to Brad Wharton, obviously, who came on the show before, the commentator for Cage Warriors. He was put a tweet up earlier asking about the trilogy, trying to think back to a bad card or a card that just didn't, maybe just underwhelmed. And I said, when you think of the circumstances and the restrictions that they've had and they've still put these cards on, that's impressive enough. But to put the level of fights on, the fighters, the production, everything which they've done 3 days in a row, so many times, it is just unbelievable what they've achieved. I really believe that it's for MMA fans, it's kept us going in a time when there was no MMA. And
you can imagine what goes into one promotion show. Just to do 3 back to back is quite something. It really is. You got to have everything down super efficiently.
Oh yes. So we move on to Cage Warriors 128, which was the Friday show. And it was another very, very good one, mate. I'm not afraid to say. You had a bit of interest in the main event, which we'll talk about in just a second. Previous guest, Aidan James. Obviously, we spoke to Aidan previously, making his Cage Warriors debut. And have you seen the finish to this?
No, I have not.
Oh my days, mate! Right, so he gets him in a triangle choke, and he's just elbowing him like that, and mate, he just messes him up big time.
Right.
And that is eventually the ref's just okay, you're not going to tap out. Your face is
got to step in.
But that was about as impressive a debut as you could. Second fight on the card. Banger of a fight, mate, as you'd expect from Liam Gittins. Gerardo Fanny defeated Liam Gittins via a TKO with a knee and punches about towards the end of round 2. I think there was 5 seconds left. But that was just a whoo! Just Liam Gittins has been like that for the last couple of fights, haven't he? He's just I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why he's suddenly been like that. It's unusual that he's
it's exciting. Exciting.
Yeah.
And this was no different. Gerardo Fanny is a good fighter, though, isn't he? And
absolutely is, yeah.
Disappointment of the day, or of probably the trilogy, was Michelle Martigioni was facing Adam Aronsinger. Really looking forward to this fight, and it ended with a no contest after an accidental eye poke. like a minute or so into the second round, which is really disappointing. I would expect them to run that back.
Probably so, yeah.
Then we had, I know I'm missing out some fights, but as I say, we can't go through everything. The main event then for the Friday show was Paul Hughes versus Morgan Charrier for the interim. People seem to be forgetting that it's the interim featherweight champion title, because who's the featherweight champion? Jordan.
Our very own Jordan Susanek.
People need to remember that. But congratulations to Paul Hughes. He is someone I would really love to get on the show, actually. Great win.
Oh, he'd be great on the show.
Be electric.
Yeah.
We should get him in at the same time.
Oh, man. That would be a corker. They'll probably do it as well. They got the personality. Do you know what? They actually bounce off each other. The banter between they have utter respect for each other. They just got a passion to win and prove they're the best. And I know that they've got to face each other again sometime in the future to do that. And like Hughes says, that'll probably be done on UFC.
Yeah, I think I would like to see that. That's where I would like to see it is on the UFC at the end of the day, mate. I think that's where it should be. But we'll see. We will see. Paul Hughes was impressive, though, mate. Nevertheless, I thought he won very comfortably. One of the cards that it is 47-47. No, I thought Paul Hughes won.
Yeah. He went through some difficult times from what we're hearing about, and some little clips that I've seen. There's one time he got hit with a hard body shot. Yeah, he got hit with a body shot, didn't he? That looked like it really hurt him.
But that at the top level, aren't you?
They're both fantastic fighters. But Charrier had the natural bulk, I think, the physicality, and maybe slight advantage initially thinking before. But look, Hughes looked big. He's packed on even more muscle. He's got great genetics and developing into a full specimen of a man. So, I think, really hitting his peak that'll last for a good 10, 12 years. Going to be great to see any of them. Look how close those matches have been between Jordan, Hughes, and Charrier. These three real cream. Real cream and of representation of what we got over here in Europe. All three of these lads can make an impact of some sorts, either in Bellator or in UFC. And I think at some point, all three of them will be out that way. I think that's inevitable. It's going to happen. They've all got that drive and desire. I feel sorry for Charrier. His record now is not going to really portray his true level and potential. But look, he's still a fantastic fighter. I think between them, it's always going to be on the day, on the moment, that's going to decide who's going to win. Fantastic fighters, all three.
These top level fighters in Europe keep cutting each other off. I wish it's frustrating because we've talked about MMA and why it's so good that they put the top fighters against top fighters, but you're almost like you don't want Jordan to fight Paul Hughes or Morgan Charrier again, because you want them all to go to the UFC and go and show what Europe's got.
Yeah,
because you've got so many good fighters, great fighters in those cases, and I just would like to see it perhaps to move it on. Little shout out to Mikhail Figlak, defeated Kieran Lister via a unanimous decision on the Saturday show. That was a real impressive performance. And then his brother Matthias Figlak defeated Torlefson via TKO in
they're looking very, very dominant.
Do you know who I was very impressed with on Saturday? Was Steve Amiable, another previous guest. Defeated Walter Cogledro via a submission guillotine choke. We saw, I think it was 4 guillotine chokes on Saturday, all high elbow as well. The best of one, which was saved to last. A massive win in the opener for Dylan Hazan. Not a name I'm familiar with, but he beat Scott Malone via a split decision. Scott Malone's no
mug. Absolutely.
And also, Harry Hardwick defeated Conman Dare. I apologize. Via unanimous decision. Two names to look out for there: Dylan Hazan and Harry Hardwick. Of course, then we had the co-main event was Rhys McKee making his Cage Warriors return after his, I think it's fair to say, ill-fated stint in the UFC. I think we've talked, when he came on, we talked about how he was perhaps stitched up a little bit for them. But, he showed that he has got the skills to pay the bills, mate. He decimated Alexei Machkivi via a TKO punches about three minutes of the third round. But I thought he put on a bit of a clinic, to be honest.
Yeah. I said he would. We was talking about this fight in the club, and I said you're going to see McKee put on a show. I think that
I felt like he wanted to show what he could do.
Absolutely, yeah. This guy belongs in UFC. He really does. And it was just an unfortunate start that he had in there. Really, I think he's going to showcase himself 3 or 4 times, and then he'll be back out there again. I have no doubts at all. No doubts.
Yep, spot on, mate. So then, with the main event, we had 2 former guests and friends fighting each other for the flyweight title. I know you were very torn. I was torn. I really got a lot of time for Luke Shanks. I like him a lot. I count Sam Creasy as a friend. I really like Sam. And wow, it was a great, really fascinating fight. Like, Sam started really well with the strikes, really looking sharp. Then Luke kind of looked really dangerous, countering with these big elbows. As Sam shot in, and Sam shot in quite early and took Luke down. But after that, a couple of times, Sam would kind of go in for a left or a right shot, and Luke would see him coming and he'd catch him with like an elbow, and he broke Sam's nose quite early on. I think in around the first round somewhere, and Sam's nose was just gushing, and he kept blowing it in the fight, like to clear it. And the Brad and Dan Hardy
don't want to do that.
And luckily, the round finished, and his cut man did a tremendous job at the end of that first round to kind of put it all back together so it wasn't gushing. And after he stopped the blood, I did feel like Sam went on and really looked like he looked to me the more likely to finish the fight. And I felt like as the fight went on into the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, then I thought Luke might smother him a bit and really get stuck in, but
start grinding on him.
But as I said, I got so much time for Luke. I felt like for the finish, Luke made a little bit of a mistake going in for a takedown, and as soon as he went in, you could see Sam got the guillotine on, got the elbows really, really high. They said on the commentary, Dan Hardy said, because he was so quick putting it on and getting the elbow up, Luke just didn't have time to make it was impossible to get out of, basically, is what Dan
it is still possible. With that double high elbow, what you normally do is, but with a normal guillotine prep up as they go to do it, you throw your arm over their shoulder so they can't elevate the elbows, and you see Luke trying to pummel his arm over. He tried to do it because he knew there was a guillotine on, he just didn't know what variation was going on, and he kept trying to reach over the elbow, but of course he was failing. And you ain't got long before that oxygen of the brain runs out. What he should have done was it was not very technical, but it would have taken the pressure off the neck. He should have jumped and basically gone into a face up north-south position. They would have both been face up to take the pressure off the neck. The fact that the head was pulled down puts all the pressure deep into the neck, and it's not a nice experience. It's a pretty fast submission in terms of how quick it gets applied. That was his only hope, was to try to do a jump roll and try and pivot out of it, take pressure off the neck. But well done, Sam. Sam's cracking on. He is not a super young man when so in that aspect, I'm happy for him. The only thing, and I've always said about him, and he knows what I'll say if he's watching this, is I don't like his open style of defense. He uses the elusivity of his footwork only for his defense, and yes, he can bring a block up, but look, it's already caused it's already been caught out once before by having this low arm position as a permanent stance, and it went wrong for him. It went pear-shaped. He got himself knocked out, and I do worry, hoping that he's going to be stepping up, and I'm hoping he goes UFC way because he deserves to be there. But he must address that or add something into the defense mix. Otherwise, he could come unstuck again. I just don't want that for him. He's put too much legwork into getting where he's got. Yeah, well, there's nothing more because I mean, he's not a young man anymore, so maybe his style's so set in stone. But that doesn't mean that you can't add things in. I'm not saying change. I'm saying add something into the defensive game. Nothing wrong with his attacks, delivery of strikes, takedowns, submissions, clearly. But I just think there's a slight hole in the way that he defends.
Yes. And then we had, Luke was very complimentary. He congratulated Sam and said that he did well and whatnot. He did put a post up today. We've got to mention it, where he put a video with it, and he said that he felt like Sam tapped. I think it was during a scramble, and he had Sam in like an armbar, and then sort of Sam squirmed out and went around the back.
Right.
To me, and look, I'm not a fighter, I'm not a coach, so what do I know? But to me, I didn't think it was a tap. I thought it was just, part of the scramble, and I thought it happened so quick that. And again, I'm not a fighter, so I don't know how much pressure it takes and how it feels. But to me, there wasn't enough time between getting the armbar on and where he thinks he's tapped for it to be a tap without his arm being... Like, the only way I could see it being that quick is if his arm was broke. And I'll read the tweet, the Instagram message word for word, because I don't want to misquote anyone. He basically says... next time I don't let go. Should have snapped it when I had the chance. Next time the ref will have to peel me off a snapped arm. And he tagged Cage Warriors in there. So he does feel like maybe there was a tap there. I've seen some people agree, and I've seen I think it was his coach James Doolan, I think might have agreed, but I've seen other people say, it's not there. So it's tricky. It is tricky.
Look,
the refereeing standard's been very good.
But... Look, a tap has to be really decisive. You're not going to be getting away with just like a little this. It has to be decisive. I haven't seen it to really comment, but I know that much. For a referee to step in, it has to be a proper tap.
Yeah, I don't see. I'm just looking at it again, mate, and I mean, I was wondering if I could put it up on the screen because it's an Instagram post rather than, but I don't want to get,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Cage Warriors stuff up. But look, to me, it wasn't. But I just wanted to say that because Luke has said that since the fight. But if that's what he believes, and it's I can imagine Luke is very frustrated. He felt like he was going to win that fight. And then if he does feel like there was a tap, then of course he's going to be frustrated. Like if he genuinely feels that there's a tap, then of course he's going to feel frustrated and maybe get hard done by. I don't think Luke's the sort of person to make excuses, if that makes sense. So I do think that he obviously thinks that, there's something in there. But it is what it is, mate. Unfortunately, right. Bellator. We had Bellator Wembley going on at the same time as the Friday Cage Warriors show, and I just want to say, mate, massive shout out to a friend of the show. He's been on a few times. He's filled in for you, Lewis Long. This was a big fight for him. We've been saying we felt like he should be in the rankings anyway, but he wasn't. And this was a big opportunity for him because, this was at Wembley, big crowd, and he deserved his, what would you say? I don't know how you describe it. He deserved his moment, and it was a big fight, a big audience. And Lewis Long turned up in dramatic style, mate. And I believe he's aiming to become the first Welsh fighter to secure a top 10 ranking in the UFC or Bellator. I believe he should already be there. After that fight, I believe that the next time they update those rankings, he should be in there. And there was another rear naked choke win. And it was not a lot. It was brutal finish, mate. He finished it in seconds. Sensational performance.
Yeah, that's great.
Really impressive. And the other fight from Bellator, which I kind of wanted to talk, there's a couple really, but I'd advise anyone to watch it on BBC iPlayer, especially like the guys who are not that massively familiar with MMA and they watch the shows. Go to the BBC iPlayer, watch Bellator 267 is on there now. You've got Lewis Long's on there. You've got Leah McCourt, the Irish girl, and also Michael Venom Page. It was a full clean sweep for those three fighters. Have you seen any of it, mate? The Bellator,
I've seen Tim Wilde versus Yves Landau, because that Yves Landau is absolutely so athletic, and so I was kind of curious to see how Tim Wilde would deal with that. I saw Venom Page, and that's as far as I got.
What did you make of Michael Venom Page's performance?
Not very good. I felt like he lost the fight. I was really surprised that it went in his favour. Great guy, you know. I think he's one of these fighters that a little bit like a firework display show that you might go to. They're either great or they're terrible, and this was not a good performance by him. I think the only time really you can say that Michael Venom Page is really, really good is when he's getting those emphatic, crazy knockouts. You just don't know what angle it's going to come from, and he knocks you out big. But he looked a little bit lost. I mean, he did knock Lima down a few times.
Yeah,
but he started doing some stuff that's not so sound. He wasn't looking. He was doing things with not so much confidence, as far as I was concerned. And I'm really glad Lima decided to choose to take it to the ground at times, because otherwise, I think people would have started booing. I think that this fight would have got a whole lot more criticism than it did. But yeah, I just felt like Lima did enough.
No,
not at all. No, I really didn't. I was shocked.
That's interesting, because this was like a redemption fight for him against Lima, wasn't it? Like,
that's right. Yeah,
that's how it's been billed now, as he got his redemption and stuff. So I'm quite interested that you.
Yeah, I mean,
that he, didn't think that he won it.
Yeah, Page was not walking around as if he was confident he won it either. Straight after, I think he thought he had lost it as well. What can I say?
Yeah, of course. Look, there was some BBC iPlayer. I really advise people to watch it. Like, it was a great show. You had Khurshid Karakov beat Jaya Junior in the unanimous decision. The first fight in the prelims, that was a really good one. Jack Grant fought Nathan Jones, with Grant picking up the victory via TKO in round one.
Yeah,
that
was
brilliant. Awesome. And then Lewis Long beat Michael Dubois by a rear naked choke. You had Tim Wade versus Yves Landau. Were you surprised that Tim Wade won that?
I
think it was going to be a
no, I'm not surprised. I was kind of curious to see how he would deal with that incredible athleticism. And Tim Wade did well. He did really, really well. I think Yves Landau started to show his lack of technical chaining ability. So he would shoot in and just drive hard and wouldn't really switch it up too much. And if he did try and switch it up, he didn't do it too efficiently. I think he relies on that incredible athleticism that he has with explosivity. And it was largely coming unstuck. And Tim did great. He absolutely did great. You could tell he really believed in himself. You could tell his preparation was good. And it was a solid performance. I think he's racked up a few wins in a row now, hasn't he? Is he a few wins now?
A few quite win streak,
so we're going to see him moving up the ranks.
Yves Landau as well, though.
Landau's great to watch, but like I say, he has got to tidy himself up technically a little bit.
That's what makes him exciting. No,
it does. But
just keep going.
Because he can still have that style, but he's just got to get the body mechanics right. I don't know what else to say. It's full of potential, bags of potential, that guy. But I'm really excited for Tim Wilder, and really deserves these victories that he's got of late, and it deserves to be put up those ranks. Look, this guy, they kind of like give him these offerings now. He's another one that's been around for a while, and I really want to see him have these opportunities to see where he truly is at. There's a few things that I feel like he could do better, but it was such a hard thing to judge him on, being up against such a strange, unorthodox stylist like Landu. But like I say, I was just curious on how he'd deal with it, which is why I wanted to make sure that I had that one under my belt before I come on. It's the last fight I managed to squeeze in before we come on today. And I'm really glad I got it in, because it was a great fight between both of them. Onwards upwards for Tim Wilder.
100%, mate. Just before we finish up Bellator, Leah McCourt versus defeated Jessica Borger by unanimous decision. This was a really good fight. I really enjoyed it. Leah McCourt is racking up those wins. And then Gaz says Leah McCourt was great again. She doesn't get enough credit. Yeah, I think she doesn't. I think because Bellator don't do a lot of female fights. Like on the UFC, there's 2 or 3 fights every card. Like Bellator do a couple, but I think they do also focus on like Cyborg quite a lot. Leah McCourt is just quietly just destroying people.
Yeah,
that's not a bad thing though. In some ways, where you
I
just quietly
agree.
go about your business and
I absolutely agree. Yeah, look, let's just let her grow, and because each time she's getting more and more confident, and I think it's great that she's under the radar at the minute. And it's not a bad thing, I don't think.
So we'll move on to UFC to finish us off, mate. You had UFC Vegas 38. I haven't seen all of these. I saw the Kevin Holland one. I saw the Thiago Santos, Johnny Walker. I think I've seen most of them, the main card, actually. Was there anything on the prelims that we needed to address?
I didn't see the prelims.
I'll tell you something. Beth Correira lost again. Which is, what a fall from...
Yeah.
How you describe it? Fall from grace, I suppose. She was a title contender not that long ago. And she's now losing on a prelim.
Yeah, it goes to show you the caliber that's coming through.
Levels, isn't it? Levels.
Yeah.
But I've heard a couple of those prelim fights are actually really good watch. Jamie Malarkey on Devontae Smith, which finished with a TKO, I've heard is quite a good one. And also Jared Gordon versus Joe Selecki. I've been told to watch that as well, so I'll watch that. Right. Main card, UFC. Alexander Hernandez defeated Mike Breeden via a KO in the first round, about a minute in and 20 in. What did you make of it?
Yeah, both looked really intense, didn't they? Both come out with plenty of intensity. Yeah, but once Breeden got caught, that was it. If Hernandez was not going to let up. He was just absolutely on him. And there's not a lot you can say about this, really. They both come out really, really intense. You have a little exchange of wrestling, but it was really down to explosivity of their striking. And one got caught early in the exchange. And he just made sure of it and couldn't recover from the situation. And that can happen. You could, sometimes can say I don't believe in luck, but nevertheless, at the start of a fight, when 2 people want to start intently, as they both did, one could pull the short straw, and in that instance, it's Breeden this time round.
It's exciting to watch, isn't it? But it's also when you go in like that, someone undoubtedly is going to get caught, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when they're going out like that, I sometimes wonder, are they chasing that bonus more than they are strategically trying to guarantee a win or more guarantee a win? It's got to
be tempting, though, isn't it? If you're a predominantly strike-based fighter. And if I knock this guy out or I submit him in a fancy way, I'm getting 50 grand. And you're an up and coming fighter who's not loaded, whose purse is relatively small. It's got to be tempting to go.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're like Modestus or someone like who can do those spinning kicks and all the different things, got to be tempting to go out and try and get that.
This is
eye-catching victory, I guess, is the word.
Yeah, this is what makes them go in at each other and actually get the fight going. But like I say, if 2 people are going to go in that hard, that intently together, one person's probably going to pull a short straw. But it's good viewing.
Yeah, it's good for us. Good night, Irene, when she caught him though.
Oh yeah, it was.
Sat him down, didn't he?
Yeah,
He was
right onto the bum.
second.
Yeah.
Next up was Krzysztof Jurko defeating Misha Cirkunov. A big fan of Misha Cirkunov, but he got defeated via a split decision to Jotko.
Yeah, Jotko looked good. Yeah, Jotko looked really, really good with his striking. Cirkunov, he's come down weight, hasn't he? I think that might be taking a little bit too much out of him. Maybe another time around, maybe his body get used to it. I don't know, but he looked very, very heavily muscled, super, super lean, but just looked like he was struggling with the takedown. It looked like that with him coming down a weight, he didn't carry the strength with him. I don't know, that's what it seemed anyway. And Jotko did the right type of thing and really pushing the intent pace with the striking. Although he had some good exchanges in the wrestling himself, indeed put Surkov down as well in round 3, put him on his back himself. So, Jotko's showing that he can wrestle some as well as strike. But to me, Jotko was the one that always looked dangerous, Jotko only went through one really difficult situation where Surkov did get him down and was partially on the back. But because he was scrambling up so well, Jotko, that is, Surkov just couldn't get anything off proactive in terms of striking to try and rack up any damage with the takedown. And then Jotko was back at it looking dangerous again. So, yeah, frustrating performance for Cirkunov. He showed some real dominance when he gets someone to the ground, but just couldn't do it long enough or couldn't be intense with it enough.
Sluggish.
Yeah, he did it. Like I said, I think it's that weight cut. I think it was too much for him.
Because he just looked like his body wouldn't quite do what his mind wanted him to do. And I always felt like if Cirkunov could take it to wrestling, he would win. And I felt like Jotko could probably win the striking. But even, like you said, when Cirkunov or Jotko went towards wrestling, it was still that Cirkunov didn't have maybe the strength to dominate. Jotko.
I think his muscles look lacking a little bit.
Didn't have the explosive power that he normally has, but everyone has an off day, I guess. But Jotko deserves the credit. He'll move up the rankings now. He's 13th, or Misha Cirkunov is 13th, so I think Jotko will go up a bit. Then you had Nico. I didn't see this one. Nico Price versus Alex Oliveira with a unanimous decision victory for Price.
Yeah, both of these had really good spells. Oliveira, his crosshand was sublime. I mean, you normally see people sit behind your jab, don't you? But this guy was just launching his crosshand, and it was landed on the money numerous times. And it was actually making Nico Price look a little vulnerable. And Nico Price was also looking a little slow, not in a way where he was lacking any substance in his muscles, but again, quite a heavy set guy, just like Cirkunov. But his punches and his kicks just looked so readable. And Oliveira read him numerous times again with that counter cross. But Nico Price eventually did get it to the ground in the latter rounds, and it took something out of Oliveira. It just seemed to fluster him, I suppose you would say. I felt like if Alex Oliveira just stayed a little tidier on the feet and continued with that success with that crosshand and sat behind his hands, had faith in his hands, he could have nipped this win. But he got a little flustered, started over-opening up with the strikes and got himself spoiled.
I thought he was
overstretching. Yeah. As well. Yeah, and I just feel like he let that slip from him. I think it was well within his grasp to win. It looked like he really had his range set with that crosshand, and I think he could have just made more of it. But he just let his feathers get ruffled with it, and Nico Price took full advantage. A great little fight. But I like to think about what these fighters are going to do when they rise up the levels. I think right now with the levels that they're both at, I think both of them will struggle with that kind of performance. Breaking into sort of like the top tier guys in that weight division. I think they've both got improvements to be made.
Yeah, good shout, mate. Bruce Bob Trotter says they need to make a rule that grown men cannot be crying while walking out to fight.
Okay, yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Not having that at all. But, there you go. I've lost my card. There we go. Then we had Kevin Holland and Carl Ducasse ending in a no contest due to a clash of heads. Tell you what, one thing you can say about Kevin Holland, mate, is when he fights, stuff happens.
It does, doesn't it? It does.
Seems to go off and kick off a bit. Like whether it's him talking, it's him dancing, it's him clashing heads, no contests, eye pokes.
Yeah. Something's always happening. Something's always happening. You're absolutely right. But he was so funny. He was talking to DC, wasn't he, about his wrestling capabilities. Like, see that balance. It was quite funny, quite comical. I do wish he would be a little bit more strict with himself and professional. But Kevin Holland is what Kevin Holland is, and it seems like he's an entertainer, and he's certainly given us that much. But what a shame about the clash of heads. And I think it was a fair call for them to call that a no contest. Daukaus performed very, very well. I think he was kind of surprised how much harder Kevin Holland was to take down from what we've seen from previous performances.
Full wrestling camp, apparently.
Yeah, and that's all well and good. But now I don't know what they do in their wrestling camps. Of course, I know they wrestle, they learn defense and counters and attacks and what have you. But I don't know whether they've given him an anti-wrestling game, which is something that I'm quite big on. And it's all very well putting a defensive wrestling aspect in your game, but when you're coming up against a pedigree wrestler, nevertheless, you're still pulling a short straw on that exchange. I think anti-wrestling is where it's at, alongside that defensive wrestling aspect that I imagine that he's learning. But yes, he did defend his hip position better than previous. People shooting on the hips, wasn't there? It's just a criticism I had of him before. It's like people know that they can get hold of his hips and take him down pretty easy. He still gave his hips away. Yes, he defended it better, but he still gave the hips away nevertheless. So, I think once he gets some of that anti-wrestling aspect in, where he can force the other person to stay in the anxiety of striking, because even though he's not the tightest of striker, he's very, very explosive, very, very creative, and he can put a pressure on. But that pressure is only going to be pressure as long as you can keep into that range. And he allows people to come in on that range and get a hold of him. And they can have respite there, if nothing else. But they're not only getting respite, they're getting successes there. But Daukaus was pretty damn good. I was pretty impressed with him. It was just a shame that win that he had was kind of like overshadowed by the fact that it really come about because of this clash of heads. But it was nasty. It was, when I say nasty, not, people haven't seen it. They might think that they clashed forehead to forehead and there was a nasty knockout or cut. It wasn't that way. Daukaus's forehead or top of the head hit the side of the jaw of Kevin Holland, and he was actually out momentarily. You see it in his face. It was a flash knockout, but he come to very, very quickly, scrambled back to feet, did a great job to kind of fight on from that kind of clash. But great refereeing to question it, review it back. To review it back, and it was absolutely fair. Just unfortunate, I think, for Daukaus.
Yeah, I think they'll run it back, and rightly so. Yeah, like you say, I thought it was a good shout by the referee. That's an interesting guy. I love that. Bruce, I will come to that question for Danny in just a sec. Let's just talk about this last fight, and then we'll get to that question about anti-wrestling. Main event was Thiago Santos, ranked 5. He defeated Johnny Walker, who was ranked 10, 48-47 across the board. Did you enjoy this fight, and what did you make of Johnny Walker? Does he look better than he did? More all-round equipped than he did, should we say? Still not quite there for you.
I think he's getting the right ideas. John Cavan, I think, is as a underrated strategist. But I think Johnny Walker is just taking it to the extreme and come off the gas pedal too much. I think it's much better that we're seeing a more measured Johnny Walker. I like it. It's more thoughtful Johnny Walker instead of crazy. But that said, I feel like he was waiting on the strikes a little bit too long. And I think this cost him in the end. It looked like he had so much more energy at the end of this 5-round fight, for which really you should be ending that 5-round fight, giving it your all. And both of them struggled with each other's style for that fact. Santos, I think, was just struggling with the height and reach of Walker, and was kind of having to attack from way out, and had some successes with some body kicks when he was switching southpaw. I think he should have stayed in southpaw a whole lot more than he was. I And again, John Kavanagh being a good strategist, he was saying, hey, Johnny, if he switches, you can kick the body too. And that's just it for my money. Johnny Walker should have been playing off the fact that he is taller, he is rangier, and therefore he has to give Santos something to fight through. I think he should have been sitting behind a jab more, maybe a teep kick, more of the oblique kicks that we saw fleetingly from both of them. But Johnny Walker, he really should have been one setting the presidency for the pace. And he was holding back. He did loads of feints trying to look for openings, and that's all well and good. But just constantly twitching and feinting and not doing anything, it kind of reminds me of Woodley in a way. But Woodley didn't even feint. He just sort of stood there and stalked. So, yeah, I think now what Johnny Walker needs to do, or what John Kavanagh needs to do, is try to explain to Johnny Walker to have a blend of both how he was and how he was then, and try to create a mix of the two. And I think then we're going to see a Johnny Walker that can, really make people in that division sit up and take notice. But so I was disappointed and frustrated at the fight stylistically. It just didn't work out very well.
I thought Johnny Walker might have the skills to really trouble him, and he never quite got.
He didn't push enough.
Going.
Yeah,
because I really felt like if he pushed the pace and he got some of those high kicks and his jab working, I felt like he could trouble Thiago Silva.
Thiago Santos.
Sorry. I felt like he could really trouble him, and he didn't quite get going. And that was a shame for me, because I'm a big fan of Johnny Walker, as you know, mate. He's an exciting fighter. I think he's got the right coaches around him now. Yeah. And I just felt this was an opportunity for him to make a bit of a statement. He didn't have to knock Thiago Santos out. I just felt he could have gone and put on a bit of a performance and won the fight comfortably in whichever way was necessary. And he didn't quite have the urgency maybe to do it. But he's still a very young man as well.
He is.
I still believe that if he sticks with John Kavanagh and he puts the work in, I still believe he'll end up being a top fighter.
Look, experience.
SPG will make him a better all-round fighter as well.
And experienced coaches. It's not just John Kavanagh there. They have some other great coaches that accompany him. But it takes time to take on a new strategical thinking process from different coaching teams, and it takes time to therefore get it to work in practice in the actual gym environment for which he's training with them, to then put it over to the full pressure format of a 5-round feature fight sort of thing. And so we have to give him the respect that it's going to take time for him to make this new ideas come into play. But that said, I still think naturally his physicality in size difference should have been a natural process for him to try and stick behind something long and keep prodding in his face. Now, I think the overall strike count did go in favour of Johnny Walker anyway, but all the strikes that were making all the sound and all the oohs and ahs that did keep you interested enough to keep watching were all coming from Thiago Santos. It was a case
of expect, was it?
No, and that's the only reason why I kept watching it emphatically, because I was expecting one of those massive hits to land, or for Johnny Walker to suddenly go on a crazy spree. But that crazy spree never really happened, and that big shot landing that was consequential from Thiago Santos never happened. So it was, frustrating.
Yes, indeed. Right, we're going to do some predictions for next week's UFC, but before we do that, Bruce Bobtrotter said, Danny, why can't you teach more UK fighters anti-wrestling? It seems like Darren Till hasn't ever bloody heard of the concept. He looked like rubbish against Derek Brunson.
Yeah. I mean, anti-wrestling, I'm sure, is out there amongst many gyms. Anti-wrestling is just taking away the core principles of what a wrestler needs to take you down. Trying to link the arms together so he's got a hold of you so you can't escape his grip, getting the hips in close to create lift, and then understanding different arm and leg linkages to chain together and transition. So if you're shooting with double, to rise up to the back, to link things together, shooting for a double, they sprawl, you go into a single, and as they rise up, go into a crutch, and from a crutch you can go into all sorts of other things from there. but really, so you really, so if you, it's hard to do because I'm trying to do this with,
of course,
trying to paint a picture with, with my words. But if you think of a striker's stance, having their hands up, protecting their face, the anti-wrestling block is the forearm because it's quite a wide area, and you want to connect with the shooter's shoulder and neck, and then strip back your lead leg, so increase in distance. But that block is not like an under pummel, so you'll quite often see people shooting in, they'll put an under pummel in, and don't get me wrong, under pummels are great. That means you've got, what could be considered dominance, but you don't want to be under pummeling someone who's an absolute pedigree wrestler, and you've learnt your wrestling, growing up here in the UK, because you're nevertheless now in a wrestling environment, and you think that wrestler ain't gonna know how to break down that under pummel and get the wrestling going. Once you give a wrestler a spark, he'll keep striking that spark until he gets the flame, and the flame is what he wants. And so it's all a case of not letting that spark get anywhere near anything that can catch light. So you keep your distance in the right type of way. So instead of locking horns, under pummeling, it's a case of making frames and stripping away and circling your footwork. So of course, if you block and you strip your lead leg back and they keep pushing forward, you then create a circle, a bit like a charging ball, chasing forward at the red cloth, and you're not really behind it, you sidestep. It's a little bit like that concept, I suppose you would say. But there is more to it that I can say, but I don't want to go over it in too much detail. But anti-wrestling aspects can also be included with the ground aspect, so that when you do get taken down, you know how to fall in the right type of way to get your hip to the fence or your back to the fence, and use that fence to scramble back up, because that way the takedown hasn't scored. You got to remember how they score it now. A takedown only scores when you could be productive with some kind of proactivity once you get them down. If you take them down and they get back up, that ain't really scoring in any big way, regards to judges.
There we go.
Yeah.
Finishes off, mate. We'll have a look at next week's UFC card. It's been a mental week of MMA and stuff. And obviously, we would have a bit of boxing in it, but if Chris Eubank Jr.'s fight wasn't called off, some pretty interesting fights though next week. Main event is a female strawweight fight, which I'm quite looking forward to. Just having a quick look on the old prelims, see if we've got any of the Brits on there. Can't see any. Right, so the main event is Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez.
Now that's a good one. That's striker versus grappler.
4th versus ranked 6.
Yeah, that's real striker versus grappler. But Dern's been impressing me with her striking. She's clearly working hard at it, and her grappling is obviously exemplary. I'm going to push towards Dern for this one.
I'm going to go with Mackenzie Dern. People forget Mackenzie Dern has only lost one fight.
Yeah,
she's 11-1, and if I remember correctly, the only person she's lost to is someone exceptional. I'm just trying to have a quick look because my memory is terrible. But didn't she's only lost to someone very good, hasn't she? She lost to Amanda Ribas. Thought it was someone. Thought it was someone a bit more well known than that, but I mean, Amanda Ribas is a good fighter.
Yeah, look, Mackenzie Dern's been trying to make herself rounded on the job, so to speak. In her
career as well, mate.
That's what I mean. Yeah, she was trying to, learn this craft. She was clearly an incredible grappler, but therefore it's not hard to try to at least strategize how you're going to try and deal with a grappler. And so yeah, she's had to learn things as she goes, but she's doing so very, very well.
So, for the fun of it, I'll go with Marina Rodriguez, even though I think Mackenzie Dern is going to win. I'll go with Marina Rodriguez just to make it a bit interesting. There we go. Welterweight bout between Randy Brown and Jared Gooden.
Yeah, another really good matchup this is.
Two big boys.
It's very, very hard to predict who might come out on top. I slightly sway towards Randy Brown.
I go the other way slightly. I've gone with Jared Gooden just because Jared Gooden's takedown defense is very, very good. When I weigh it up, I just think that the grappling might give him the edge.
Yeah.
Because they're striking. Just looking at some of the stats as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with. It's so close. So close. Like they
It's a
both
good
won.
match.
Yeah, I like
It's a
it
good
a lot.
matchup.
Because even like Randy Brown has got a bit of an advantage with reach and stuff and height. I just got a feeling. I go with Jared Gooden. Then we've got Tim Elliott versus Mateus Nicolau, flyweight, ranked 9 versus 11. That's another one that's just going to see these.
Yeah.
Like, they might not be the biggest names, and people will be like, "Oh, I don't know that person," but
they're great matchups.
Exceptional fights.
They are. I'm going to go with Matthias. I think he's got the up and comer. Yeah, Tim Elliott's been around a long time. I just think the new blood's going to show through good on this one.
Yeah, I agree. Mateus Nicolau. I will go with that as well. And then we've got Sabina Maizo versus Agrapova from the women's flyweight division. That is a close one again.
I know, another really hard one.
Agrapova, that one. But
yes, I would go with Agrapova as well. She's got like incredible endurance, just sometimes a little bit erratic. But I think that cardio and pace she's going to put forward is just going to be a little bit too much for Mazzo.
And then finally, we got a middleweight between Phil Hawes, Megatron Phil Hawes, and Deron Wynn. Now, on paper, people might think, "Oh, the Megatron Phil Hawes will win that," but especially when you look at them side by side, it's a massive height difference.
Yeah,
there's 4 inches height difference.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
and Deron Wynn is only 5'6", but he is in there for a reason, and we don't know a lot about them both. I know people will probably be a little bit more familiar with Phil Hawes, from social media clips and things like that.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm going to go with Deron Wynn.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go Phil Hawes. I think Deron Wynn's he's going to have to be burning up a lot of energy to get close to either strike or to take Phil Hawes down, and he might get success in the early rounds. If he's going to win, he's going to have to win in the early part of either in the first round or early part of the second. I think as it drifts on, I think he's going to have trouble with the size difference. Yeah.
Interesting, mate. Interesting.
Yeah.
A couple of prelims I would like us to maybe keep an eye on. Jamie Pickett versus Staropoli. That's going to be beautiful. Gutierrez versus Collares, middle bantamweight. Sorry. So you got that one bantamweight. Then you got Jamie Pickett, Staropoli at middleweight. That's going to be incredible. And then there's also a heavyweight bout between Romanov and Jared Vandera. I think that. So just to say, with the Romanov Jared Vandera, the odds are like one's minus 300, one's minus 400. But I'm really interested by that because they've got fairly similar records, but like no, they haven't at all. I lie. And Romanov's 14-0 from Moldova, and Vandera's 12-5. I was looking at the wrong thing, but it's a heavyweight, mate. I think that'll be really interesting because if Romanov wins again, he is on a streak. You know, I don't think they're all in the UFC, but you know, he's undefeated. That would be his 15th win. He's going to be looking towards. He's won 5 by knockout and 8 by submission, which is not always the case, is it? With the with UFC guys, with heavyweights, they're often knockouts, but he's got a few in the UFC. He's got 3, so this would take him to 4-0 in the UFC. So, you know, he's not completely fresh meat. But yeah, heavyweight bout, middleweight. It's basically the top 3 of the prelims I'd like to investigate next week. But another cracker, mate. I think we did well to keep that under 2 hours. Well done, us.
Yeah. Agreed.
We had so much to talk about. A massive thank you to Lloyd Germain. Really enjoyed speaking to him. Tonight, something a little bit different. I'm going to play you out with a clip from my recent interview with One Championships heavyweight champion of the world, Arjan Bula. Danny Batten, it's been a pleasure. We'll be back next week. I'll be back tomorrow with another live show, me, myself, and I. Please do join us. It's always a lot of fun. Until then, we bid you farewell.
That's what it is. And yeah, before we go get more gold in the cage, I'm looking to get gold in the pro wrestling arena, in the squared circle. And I'm hoping sort of September-ish, we've got something firmed up, which is just around the corner. So excited, been patiently waiting to get busy again.
I'm fascinated by that. You mentioned wrestling there. I do a variety of series and podcasts, and wrestling is one of them. Is there like a particular company which you're looking to work with, or can you not say?
The two leading ones, wrestling's never been hotter because of what these two companies are doing. Obviously, WWE, and All Elite Wrestling, AEW, which is on TNT, just like One Championship, was just announced a deal for India just a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, the WWE's got a long, storied history. They're always there, but they brought back SummerSlam was this weekend. They brought back Becky Lynch, the Man. They brought back Brock Lesnar. And on the flip side, he had CM Punk come back for AEW. So things have never been hotter.